What up? I'm Josh Paulson. Why do I mess that up? I've been messing up my words so much lately, and it makes me upset. Anyway, my name is Josh Paulson. I'm a pro game programmer at Defiance Game Studio, and what have I been up to lately? Because I guess this is a vlog, and I should talk about that. So, my recent work stuff has been more serialization. I'm sure that's a shocker. This code, by the way, has absolutely nothing to do with work. This is a completely side project. Anyway, um, I've been working on serialization more at work, so there's a lot more to do there and a lot more to figure out, and we've been making really good progress. So some of the tricks that have come up, one of them is just making sure that everything is saving and loading correctly and continuing along with that. Some of it has been better bug reporting, so one of the issues that we had with the old system, which I mentioned in the last vlog, is that we don't have very good error messages with the system that we were using before, and so improving that system and I realized that it was basically adjacent to a conversation that we'd had multiple times in the past about making a better overall logging system, so I worked on that. And then, yeah, I guess it's just more work on that. I don't know if there's more to say that would be more exciting or interesting, but I've been working more on that. Something that I'm really interested in talking about, because this is something that I see a lot, and I'm kind of concerned about it, and I just want to make sure that there's not sort of false expectations that people are putting on themselves. And that would be that when it comes to learning, learning is a long tail process. You can't expect to just get it immediately. And I see all these videos that say things like, hey, learn programming in a day, or learn programming in an hour, like learn Python. Hey, I became a game developer in a month. And there's a point of legitimacy to these things. And I don't want to say like, hey, you can't really push and learn and grow. But the trick is that and I also don't want it to come across as saying, oh, well, you're not legitimate if you haven't spent X amount of time. That's not what I'm saying at all. But there can sort of be this, man, I should be able to go fast. And then there's frustration along the way. There's confusion. There are things that just don't make any sense to you at the time, or maybe they never make sense as you learn more about it. There are things like that too. And it's just, my fear in looking at all those things is this false expectation on yourself. And so there's a few things that I'd like to say if you're trying to learn, whether that's programming or game development in general, some things that I think are really important that maybe you need to hear. And so one of them is I want to talk a little bit about confusion. Confusion is actually part of the learning process. A really important part when you are trying to figure something out is that process between when you have figured it out and when you have not figured it out. So you don't know what's happening with something. And then eventually you move into, oh, I understand this makes sense now, or at least you understand how it works, but ideally you start to understand the fundamentals. And one of my fears in a lot of cases, honestly, with a lot of tutorials out there, is that they will focus very much so on, here's how you get things working. Like, so far, when I was getting into Unity, nobody explained to me what the basics of this all meant. So it would be like, oh, we've got this whole setup here. I'm actually thinking of doing a video covering every single line of a very simple mono behavior. If you're interested in that, let me know. And there wasn't this really explanation in any of the videos of, oh, well, you know, you've never done programming before. What the heck does using Unity engine mean? What the heck does public class mean? What does class mean? Why is there a colon here? What does it mean that there's a colon before mono behavior? What does it mean that awake has void before it? Why is it that in some cases I can see private void awake and then I can see awake, just void awake, and that's fine? Or that I can see protected void awake? Like, what are the differences between all these things? And the thing is that these are kind of the fundamentals. And I guess one of my fears in some cases when I see different kind of pieces teaching elements is that you can get started fast, but you have no idea what's going on. And that's not a good place to be. It's way better to know what's going on, the fundamentals, and then you can move on from there. One of the big things that I think is major in programming in general is that there is very common terminology, nomenclature. I think that's the right term in this case. I might be using it wrong. Anyway, there are very common things that you can apply between languages. And just fundamentals to programming and how code works, like you're storing values somewhere, whether that's in variables or whether that's in positions in memory. And then you're reading it. And so you're basically, you're changing data. That's all that code does, is it changes data from one form to another. It's just flipping bits in the computer. And so there's fundamentals on how that works across programming languages. There's differences for sure, but there's just a lot of things that are fundamental that I would like to see people taught first. I don't think that it's that helpful to learn how to make a component in Unity if you have no idea what any of this means. It's not taking you as far as you could go. So I guess that one of the first things that I'd say again is that confusion is part of the learning process. And so it might seem like, well, Josh, you're just saying like, I don't want people to be confused. Why are you bringing this up? And the thing is that, I guess what I would say is that as you're looking into these things and you're like, what the crap is this? Because I remember when I was first looking into Unity tutorials, nobody explained this stuff. Maybe they were just like, oh yeah, you should go watch a C# tutorial. But most of the C# tutorials didn't seem to take me in the direction I wanted to go. Although, to be honest, I don't think I really looked into that much. So maybe this is just my bad. But I feel like I've seen this in a lot of cases in general. And I've gotten this impression from other people as well, is that it will kind of be a cursory examination, and it won't go into depth on like, what does this actually mean? I was actually just talking with somebody recently who was looking through some Unity C# tutorials, and they were like, what does this mean? And I was like, oh, okay, I'll go through this step by step with you. And again, if that's something that you think would be helpful, like I'd be happy to just do a full breakdown of a really simple Unity component and explain what everything actually means. Because that's critical. You gotta know what this stuff means, because one of the big things I think with a lot of quick learning that can happen, that's a risk. And again, I'm not saying that everybody does this. I'm not saying that every video out there isn't good. I'm saying nothing like that. What I'm saying is that there are fundamentals to learn, and I think that my fear in some cases with the process, when people try to skip over confusion, or they try to just ignore the confusion, when they're just like I guess there's a few aspects here. One of them is that it's okay to be confused. The other one is that lean into your confusion a little bit, in the sense that you need to explore that. If you're confused about something, it's not, oh, I'm stupid, or I just don't know, or oh, these programmers are just better than me. Guess what? You can write things better than some of the best programmers, not because you're a better programmer, but because you have a specific use case, and they're generally writing for general use cases if you're taking what they have. And so, and that's just kind of a fact of things, is that generally you can make something better for your specific use case than their general use case solution will be for you. Anyway, that's an aside, and that's a whole rant, and that's, yeah. Anyway, the thing that's big here, number one, it's okay to be confused, so maybe I should write this a little bit differently. Confusion, it's okay to be confused. And now my text is running down the page. Okay, that's okay. So it's okay to be confused. And then the other thing that I would say is that also, so it's okay to be confused, and then also explore your confusion. If you're confused about something, if you're not sure what something means, look it up. And some of that is just knowing what to look up, and that's part of why I'm like, man, I'd like to see better explanations for these things. So when it comes to learning game dev, there's a lot to learn. There's going to be a lot of confusion. That's okay. That doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. The second part that I want to talk about, though, with learning is frustration. And frustration is actually a really important part, I think, of learning as well. And I think that there can be kind of this, oh man, we need to eliminate frustration. Let's have a frustration-free tutorial. Guess what? Learning can be frustrating, and frustration is actually really important. Here's what frustration means. Frustration means that you are trying to comprehend something. It means that you're not quite getting it yet, but you're working through it. And sometimes that means that you need to step away and you need to come back in a while. So there's an aspect of frustration of it's okay to take a break. There's also an aspect of frustration of it's okay to just be frustrated for a while and to keep banging your head against something. Now, I will say that what I found is that if there's something that I'm really trying to learn, it's great to do that on my off time, and then I take my learnings to work. So I try to avoid the frustration at work as much. If I'm getting blocked for 15 minutes or more, then it's a good idea to bring someone else in usually. But the other aspect of that is that when you are learning, you cannot expect to learn and to grow and to develop without any frustration. I think of the kind of, common thing of a chick getting out of an egg. I don't know what sounds chicks make. I guess, no, I do. What do I mean I don't know? They chirp. Anyway, that's the sound that chicks make. I know the sound that chickens make too. Anyway, so chicks, why am I talking about chicks? Frustration is part of the process. You're going to be trying to kind of break out of your confusion, trying to figure out the pieces. And the big thing is that it's okay if it's frustrating and it's okay if it's hard. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you, or that you're stupid, or that you're just not getting it. I mean, it might mean that you're not getting it for a while, but frustration is not something to be avoided. It's not a reason to not do something. It's not a reason to stop. It's not a reason to give up on something. And it doesn't mean that you're not able to do it. It means that you're frustrated. And actually, one of the things that can also mean is that when you get it, you're going to get it better than a lot of other people, because you had to think about it, you had to sort through it, and that's really valuable. Sometimes if you get the answer too soon, I think that you only get the surface level answer and you don't actually understand the depths of it. Like, for example, you might know how to solve a problem, but you don't know why it works. And I guess that's another one of my fears with some of the tutorials and videos that I see, is that it's like, there's a big difference between understanding how to do something and how something works. And maybe some of this pet peeve also comes from, I've seen some programming tutorials for here's how to solve this problem in Unity. I'm like, that's no, please, no, like, don't do it that way, because this is like, a tenth is performant and really unreadable code, and you could do so much better. And it again, I guess that's something that I want to add to that, is that it's okay to do things in a way that's not great, especially as you're starting off and you're trying to figure things out. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. Frustration is part of the process. Confusion and frustration don't mean there's anything wrong with you. It just means you're in the learning process. The third thing that I'd actually add to that, and maybe this is a surprise, maybe not, but is boredom. I have actually found that my greatest learnings have come when I am the most bored. My greatest discoveries have come about when I am the most bored. And one of the things that's always stood out to me as very interesting is that the two greatest cartoonists of all time, and I think this is very fair to say, Gary Larson and Bill Watterson, so the creators of The Far Side and Calvin and Hobbes, two of the things that they were very emphatic about when talking about themselves was how boring their lives are or were. They never saw themselves as super interesting people or as having interesting childhoods. And one of the things that I found is that in my childhood, like, there were times when I was bored too. And those were generally when I came up with the best ideas. And it seems like, I think that to some people they might see, oh, they were bored. Well, they came up with great ideas, they were clever, they were creative, in spite of their boredom. I actually think, and this is me kind of, I guess, theorizing, that's fine, I think that it was because of their boredom. Because when you're bored, you look into things that normally you wouldn't care to look at. You find, I guess I'll phrase it this way because I like using this term for art anyway, you find potential in the formless and empty. You find potential where there seems to be no potential. And that's really important. Also, this code's wrong, so I'm just going to get rid of it so that nobody's thinking that that's right. Anyway, it's really important and good even to be bored sometimes. And so if you're like, man, I've solved this problem already 10 different times, and assuming that you're on your own time and you don't need to just solve it quickly, what I would really recommend is that you, instead of just being like, okay, I'm bored, try to find another way to solve it. And when you try to find another way to solve it, odds are you're going to get frustrated. And you might get confused as to how you can even do it. And so these all kind of tie together, but when you're bored, it's really okay to be bored sometimes when you're learning, or even to put yourself in situations where you're going to be bored and you know you're going to be bored and where it's just not exciting. That's okay. And actually, I think that's really important for learning. So these three things that people will generally try to avoid when learning: confusion, frustration, and boredom. Learning is a long tail process. I don't know if you can really become an expert or become great at what you're trying to do unless you are willing to face and live with regular confusion, frustration, and boredom. Those are important pieces. Now, am I saying that we shouldn't make learning fun or entertaining? That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that these are going to be part of the process. I'm not saying that these are all of the process. If your learning is only confusing, frustrating, and boring, something's wrong. This isn't a, this should be all of your learning. But these are going to be parts of it. And especially the more that you care about something, probably the more you're going to run into all three of these things. And the deeper that you get, the less that you're going to have other people readily available to help you, probably. Probably the more that you're going to feel like you're just trailblazing and you can get advice, but where it's just sort of, you're charging forward. It's new territory. Yeah, and then the final thing that I would just add to all of this is that if you don't know, you aren't dumb. If you don't know how to do something, if you don't know how something works, if you don't know why it works, that doesn't mean that you're stupid. It doesn't mean that you're incapable. It means that you don't know. It's very different. And actually, one of the things that I really like to tell people in general, I'm going to delete all this, is, and actually this is something that me and my friend Brian talked about on a podcast that we did like 6 times, and that is the not yet mindset. And what this is that it's, I can't do this yet. And so the idea with this is that you don't go, oh man, I can't do this. It's impossible for me to do this. I'm incapable. That might be true today, but the truth is I can't do this yet. And so you might be looking at something that is very complicated, very hard. Maybe you're looking at this code on the left side here and you're like, I can't do this. Like I can't make this work. I can't figure out how to make any of this work. Instead of stopping there, what I would really, really recommend is that you keep going and you finish up that statement with yet. I can't do this yet. And that's something that I found has really helped me. And I guess I'll share a few other mindsets that I found that are really helpful for me. I feel like this is going on. Yeah, this is going on for a while. Let me know if this is interesting or if I'm just meandering on in the comments. So there's, I can't do this yet. Another mindset that I found that is really, really helpful is, and maybe this is going to sound kind of untruthful. I guess to me it's not, and I guess that's why it's a mindset. And that is, a lot of times people will talk about problems as if they are hard problems, and oh man, this is too hard or this is too difficult. No, it's not too hard or too difficult. It's not hard. It just takes a long time. So this kind of goes in line with the not yet mindset, with I can't do this yet. So when you are coming across a problem that is particularly complicated and difficult, one of the big things that you'll see is that, hey, why did that jump up again? It is hard, it is difficult, sure, but it just takes a long time. Someday it will be easy. What used to seem really complicated, like, you know, just general Unity stuff that used to seem really hard, it's not anymore. And the same is going to be true for you. What used to be hard isn't always going to be hard. And so with that, it's really just, it's not hard, it just takes a long time. And maybe it seems like a little bit of a twist on it, but the way that I'll often take this is, hey, I'm trying to do something very specific. And it's very complicated. There's a lot of different moving parts to it. And I haven't explored them all before. But the problem isn't hard. It's not beyond me. I'm not incapable of this. It just takes a long time. And that time might involve me learning more things. It might involve me growing in some areas that I haven't really explored before. There's a lot that can mean, and that's okay. It's okay for it to take a long time. I mean, okay, so something that I'm gonna kind of append to this is that it's okay if it takes a long time if it's on your own time. If it's on work time, then yeah, you need to figure some things out. Maybe ask for some more help or such, or cut scope or things like that. But it's not hard, it just takes a long time. I know that that's something that's helped me out a lot, and I can't do this yet. Another phrase that I would really recommend is that you remove the, oh yeah, here's actually a really big one, is I don't know. I don't know is a real blocker. This is a statement where if you're like, how do I do this? I don't know. At least for myself, that's a huge blocker. And there's an honesty to it. So I don't want to claim like, oh, I know everything. The answer isn't to change I don't know to I know. The answer is, again, to look at the not yet mindset. I don't know yet. And so that's a big thing, is I don't know yet. Because you will know someday. You'll figure it out. But you don't know yet. And that's okay. And so, yeah, I'd say frustration, confusion, boredom, those are normal parts of learning. They're not going to be there all the time, and I think if they're there all the time, that's just going to be burnout. But they're going to be there at times, and that's okay. And that's part of the learning process, and really getting things, really understanding them. And then another big thing, again, is I can't do this yet. It's not hard, it just takes a long time. And I don't know yet. Those are 3 things that I found are really helpful and really have helped me to be willing to push into some things that maybe I wouldn't have been willing to otherwise. And whenever I say I don't know, I still try to catch myself and say I don't know yet. And you can add this to other statements as well. So yeah, I can't do this yet, I don't know yet, I'm not able to yet. As far as like capabilities, like if you have any statement that you find that is really limiting, I'd recommend that you just add yet to the end of it. So like, I can't do this yet, I don't know yet. I think that those are the most common ones. But yeah, I guess that I've been kind of going on about that a bit. Let me know if you found this interesting or helpful in the comments below. I love talking about this sort of thing. And I guess that maybe where this kind of ties back in is that with serialization, there's a lot of new things that I've been learning and getting into, and I've been using a lot of old lessons as well. But every step along the way, when I don't know something, it's not, oh man, I don't know and I'm blocked and there's no way that we're going to get past this and we're stuck forever. It's, I don't know this yet. And that's okay. And sometimes it takes a longer time than I want it to. I don't think I'm taking longer than I need to because it's a big problem. And I guess I haven't been on it too long, but it's always nice to finish things fast. I like going fast. I like finishing things fast. That makes me feel good. But it's not always how it is, and I guess that's okay. So, yeah, if you liked this video, then I guess like it. If you want to subscribe, then subscribe. Let me know if you have any specific questions, or if you'd be interested in a video that goes into every line of a Unity component. I would think a very basic one starting off and just explains every single part of it. Let me know if you'd be interested in that. And also just have a fantastic rest of your day. And thanks for joining. Goodbye.